VanEck Solana ETF filing had the crypto market on fire. If you just read the crypto news, you'll just be scratching your head. What the hell happened to Solana? Solana in the past 24 hours has come down 6.72%. After putting in a really good rally, it decided to reverse that rally. Now, if you look to the news for the reasons, you're looking in the wrong spot. The reasons are in the charts. Specifically, they're in the structural levels. It's really easy to get caught up in the hype of newspaper articles, but always remember, the charts tell the truth. The news tells a story. In this video, I'm going to give you insights into how to look at the charts in order to interpret the news. In other words, what's really happening as opposed to what you think should happen. All the news is particularly good, but that doesn't mean it's going to translate instantly into the charts. I'm going to help you to understand what happened to Solana up here and what you need to look for and why Solana came down just like this and where it could go to from here. You're going to find it a very fascinating video. And for information that you won't find anywhere else on YouTube or social media, please smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. With that said, let's run the numbers. On the news of the approval of the Solana ETF, we saw a big spike in prices that were met with unfortunate rejection. Price is always moving in a wave between structural levels, between structural resistance and structural support. Therefore, we must know where the structural levels are. Are we coming into structural support, or where is the structural support and how strong is it? To answer that question, and that's a big question, an important question, we can pop on the indicator. This indicator is available from CTKSMethod.org. We can see at 146.86 and 147.74 and also up at 150. There was a lot of structural resistance at play here. We had a positive fresh air gap, which meant the price could move up very quickly. It can also, unfortunately, if it doesn't fail, if it fails to hold support and fails to flip resistance into support, it can just collapse through this fresh air gap right down to structural support again, which is around that 136.43 mark. If it doesn't hold here, it's going to lower structural levels. So it's really important to know where the structure is. Solana can follow a few different price paths. If we come down and find that we're actually converting this support into resistance, we would expect this kind of movement. Remember, price can go one of three directions: up, consolidate, or down. If it goes down, it's always going to interact with structural levels. You can see even as we came up to this structural level, it stopped Solana's price. Now we've come up to this structural level on some fairly good news, but we've been rejected. We failed here, we failed here, we failed up there. There were three failures of a flip from resistance to support. Now this places this 136 level into operation, so that should be your focus. But remember, if the buyers stand in here, and that's what the 136 level is for, it's for the buyers to come back in and reverse price up. If this fails, we're going to trade under 136 and then move down to most probably 126. But what does this depend on? Solana's price movements are not dependent on Solana. Now, this may sound really nuts, but it's absolutely true. No alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity, and this is really important. We can see Bitcoin spiked up here, but then started to decay down. This is what caused the decay inside Solana. Don't worry about looking at the news, look at the charts. And I'm going to do a directional correlation chart with Solana. I'm going to overlay Solana on Bitcoin. So let's have a look. When you look at directional correlation, you can see Bitcoin coming up, Solana coming up, Bitcoin coming down, Solana coming down, Bitcoin going up, Solana coming up. You get the idea. On the news of a Solana ETF, wow, the Solana just went nuts. And we know that Solana went nuts from a structural support level into multiple structural resistance levels and failed to convert them into structural support and go higher. This is why it's critically important to know what your structural levels are. The other thing to note, if Bitcoin is coming down, the crypto party has been called to a halt. And if Bitcoin is going up, hey, the party is on, and it's going to be on right across the board. Being aware of the news is really important, but it's no means anywhere near important as knowing what your structural levels are. So let's look at the structural levels on Bitcoin. And this particular way of looking at structure has pioneered a complete revolution in technical analysis. You get it. Concierge delivered in this indicator, which you can pick up from CTKSMethod.org. We can see that what happened with Bitcoin, it was coming up through structural resistance levels, just converting them as best it could into structural support. But when it came to the 62,200 level, you can see rejection, 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 negative air. This 62,200 is the level to watch in crypto. The fate of the crypto market depends on what Bitcoin does right around the 6,200 mark. What you can see is it's just going up at the current time. It needs to reconfirm 6,200 as structural support in order to go to the 6,500 and through the 6,700 mark. If it gets above all of this structural resistance and flips it to support, we could just challenge by Monday or even earlier the 62,200 mark. Just because we reject it doesn't mean we're coming back. Often what you need to do inside the market is pull in all the shorts to liquidate through these really tough levels. And if you've been looking at the structure on Tesla, that's exactly what happened. Now, what we need to look at right here is this 59,500 negative air gap and also down to the 58,645 level. You can see that we've got two negative fresh air gaps. When we get these negative fresh air gaps, price can move down very, very quickly. And if that is the case, it will just terrify so many people, but we know where the structure is. We know where the safety nets are. We know where the ceilings are. We know how many ceilings there are, how many safety nets there are. So when you're coming down through all of these safety nets, you would expect to get a technical bounce. But what's going to happen in here around the 6,500 mark? It's going to be a signal if we're getting strength inside the crypto market or weakness. If we fail to convert 6,500 into structural support and go higher, it means we're going lower. And if we're going lower, you need to keep the structure in mind. Now, how does this impact Solana? Because that's a really important move. We saw as Bitcoin came into its structural resistance, Solana was also coming into 3 levels of structural resistance. Solana did not have the capability or the power to convert those levels of structural resistance into structural support because it's magnetized by Bitcoin. Therefore, reading the Bitcoin chart in relativity to Solana is what you need to do. Every single chart has a different structural fingerprint, so it's really important to understand where the structural resistance and structural support levels are. Let's just pop on the indicator. Now, what does the CTKS method give us? It gives us the most statistically significant support and resistance lines in existence. They are marked up across all of price history by level 1 and level 2 standard certification. Now, what we're going to do is to look at how Bitcoin could impact Solana's price and where the key levels are on Solana. So let's put on the indicator. Many people fall into the trap of just looking at the chart that they're putting money into. For example, many Solana investors and traders would simply say, I don't care about Bitcoin. I'm only looking at Solana. That is a huge mistake, as you've already just seen. Now, where's the important level of structural support? It's around that 136 area. Now you can see if Bitcoin doesn't hold on to its structure, Solana will be moving towards 123.20. But if Bitcoin starts to consolidate and starts to show positive momentum, that could push Solana in excess of 150 and upwards. You must be prepared for all three scenarios. Yesterday, people were very prepared as Solana went nuts to just jump on and ride Solana up to the moon. After all, it's getting its own ETF and it's going to challenge ETH's dominance. But yet, Bitcoin decided Solana's fate, not the news. I hope this process of reading across charts really helps you out, because when you know where the structure is, you can do something about it. You can also determine if it's getting a cross structure or it's decaying down. And if it moves into negative fresh air gaps, price can come down rather quickly. And here we're looking on the 15-minute chart of Solana. You also have the world's only leading indicator of price. You know where the structural support levels are beneath Solana's price. Other people don't know. They just use RIP, recent indicative price, which is completely non-statistically significant. That is, it cannot be trusted. I also have a free CTKS method cheat sheet because you need to know what causes Bitcoin to move around. You remember that Solana and Bitcoin took off because there was a decay in the US 2-year yield. Not just that, but other charts as well. Now, as the 2-year has recovered and bounced, that's placed negative price momentum on the crypto industry, including, of course, Bitcoin and therefore Solana. Those CTKS levels are incredibly important. They determine price waves, as you've just seen on Bitcoin and Solana. It's very important to keep the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 charts in mind. I just showed you the US 2-year, just its directional movement, and we saw the structural levels on Bitcoin as well as Solana. But the cheat sheet, available free from ctksmethod.org, gives you a complete view of the market and why things are moving the way they are. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.